Kayaking the mighty River Tees, source to sea. The Tees is one of the finest kayaking rivers in the country, with everything on offer from the most extreme whitewater kayaking to scenic, mellow, flat water, stunning remote moorland to an industrial port and a bit of everything in between. It has something for every kayaker. Over a period of many years, in a variety of craft and in numerous sections, I've paddled every navigable inch of the river, from the high Pennine moors to the open sea, with only two very short portages, the huge Kayaking Reservoir Dam and the famous High Force waterfall. This is probably a unique achievement. I'm aware of others who have paddled most of the river in a single trip, camping en route, and it's probably a more significant achievement to do this, but these descents, as far as I'm aware, have missed out the upper sections. So the River Tees flows off the high Pennine Hills to the North Sea some 50 odd miles as the crow flies, but travels a distance of over 100 miles as it meanders to the sea and the Gare Lighthouse. This video describes the full navigable river by kayak from source to sea.
Here we go!
So this journey starts with a fun seal launch, high on the Pennine moors, as close to the true source of the Tees as was navigable. We chose a period of very wet weather followed by snowmelt to get sufficient water in so that we could get as high as possible. Accessing this point took some determination and commitment. It's miles from anywhere. I'd always assumed this part of the trip would be solo, but my mate Graham was just as daft as me, so I had company. This section was surprisingly pleasant, with a few interesting features on the way down to Kayaking Reservoir, and will certainly have had very few descents before, if any. We then paddled the 2.5 miles across Kayaking Reservoir to the dam and our first essential portage. Below the impressive Kayaking Reservoir Dam, a very short section of nice rapids takes you down to the formidable Cauldron Snout. This picture shows us running this section about 20 years ago. Then comes Cauldron Snout, certainly at the very extreme end of what's navigable in a kayak, and it's only been attempted by a handful of very committed paddlers. Widely claimed to be England's longest waterfall, I'm never quite sure about that, but it's certainly impressive at 180 metres long and 60 metres in height. Nick Daw was my inspiration to paddle this. He led the way around 1990, and I followed a few years later in May 2004, only the second documented attempt. This didn't go according to plan, however. I only got part way down before losing my paddle and getting a good battering. We never did find the paddle. I returned a few years later in 2013 with some others and did get to the bottom this time, albeit ending rather dramatically. The lack of water prevented me reaching my chosen route down the final fall, and I ended up being taken down a route I definitely didn't want to take. With the excitement of cold and snout over, the next 6-mile section down to High Force offers some scenic and very remote paddling. Again, a section that's not paddled very frequently due to its remote access and catching it with sufficient water in. The crux of this section is to get off just before you reach High Force, which comes up rather quickly after some nice rapids. High Force, England's highest vertical waterfall. This was my only other portage on the trip. It's never been paddled for obvious reasons. It's certainly not a straightforward waterfall. Getting back on the river below High Force, this is a spectacular atmospheric place, particularly in high water, as this picture of me shows. The next 2.3 miles section down to Scoombury Bridge is a true whitewater kayaking classic, and a section I've paddled countless times. Although short, way too short, it's packed with non-stop entertainment, and is still fun at a very low water level as well as high. The famous Salmon Leap or S-Bend Rapid is always fun at any water level. Normally run down river left, but other options down the centre and right can also add variety. The lead into Low Force with a potentially troublesome horseshoe fall, an innocuous looking but nasty holding stopper, though at high water this can easily be skirted round on the right. Then the classic Low Force, which over the years has introduced so many to paddling the waterfall. A fall I must have run literally hundreds of times and I never tire of it. It's great fun at low water as well, and always beckons just one more run. River left here, there is the alternative drop jacuzzi chute, offering a bit more excitement than Low Force. And also here an alternative side passage drop on the river left, available only in high water with a tricky takeoff and landing. Then a nice short section just before Winch Bridge. From here down to Scoobry Bridge there is more constant entertainment with a variety of small drops and rapids. This run from High Force to this point is truly a classic and is my favourite section on the Tees. The next 3.3 mile section down to Middleton offers a pleasant, easy moving water paddle with a weir and a few small bouncy rapids for entertainment, and probably doesn't get paddled very often. The next 4.2 mile section from Middleton down to Eggleston Bridge offers a nice high water warm-up paddle for the racecourse section that follows, and has a nice couple of points of interest on the way. From Eggleston Bridge, the famous 2.6 mile racecourse section down to Coddeston. Super white water paddling at almost any water level. There are some nice playways to catch and surf. Although generally considered at its best in high water, where it offers an exciting and fairly continuous paddle, with the character of the rapids changing considerably depending on the water level. This is another classic run I never tire of, but again it's all too short. The next section from Coddeston down to Barnet Castle, 3.7 miles, offers nice lower grade moving water and is a popular section with developing paddlers and those seeking less excitement. just above Barnard Castle is safe at low levels, but as with any weir, needs respect at higher flows. Then another classic whitewater section follows from Barnard Castle down to Walton, 4.4 miles, or more usually all the way down to Winston Bridge, a further 2.9 miles. Here we have a lot of water, but it's still great fun with much less. There are a few nice features right from the start. The lead into the main event, Abbey Rapids. Abbey is a short rapid with a big reputation and seems to be a little unpredictable and different at every water level. After the excitement of Abbey Rapids, there is interest much of the way down. A super surf wave that works at most water levels. We call it the never-ending wave, which is fun at low water levels as well. Then on to Walton Lido. Here in high water, a potentially dangerous diagonal shelf and stopper runs across the river. More fun features continue all the way. An interesting natural weir, runnable at all but extreme water levels. And further on there are many more features. The final run into Winston Bridge has a number of shelves and stoppers that can get fairly serious in high water, and some are best skirted round where possible. This is certainly a classic section of the river for the whitewater paddler. After Winston Bridge, the river starts to mellow, with most of the proper white water behind us now. This 5.4 mile section down to Pierce Bridge offers nice paddling at a lower grade and is popular with paddlers looking for less excitement, and has a few nice bouncy rapids. By the time we reach Pierce Bridge, the river remains easier, but the next 5 miles down to Broken Scar Weir is still an entertaining paddle. With a few nice sections of easy bouncy water. And a couple of surf spots available at high flows. The weir at Broken Scar is quite nasty at high water and not that friendly at lower levels, but I've ran the centre chute without issue. From Broken Scar down to Croft, 5 miles, the first part of this has interest at high flows with trees and mid-river island, but the river is mainly mature and relaxed down to Croft. Going under the A66 road bridge. The river has lost most of its gradient by now and is starting to meander. The bridge at Croft is a particularly nice bridge. Croft and Isham follows a 5.6 mile section. Next under the railway bridge. About a mile after Croft, the river enters a strange section of shingle islands overgrown with trees that almost appear to block the river as you approach. Finding a route through isn't that obvious. Shortly after you arrive at the village of Neesham. The next section is the so-called Neesham Loop. Here the river meanders significantly, covering 8.5 miles to over Dinsdale, though the distance between these two villages by road is only 1.7 miles. Again, this section is best kayaked with a good flow. Time for a snack. the bridge at Over Dinsdale and the end of this section. From Over Dinsdale to Low Middleton is 2.7 miles and was the final section I completed in a short kayak. Again, high water was chosen for this section. There is a small weir here, washed out at this level, which marks the end of this part for me. From here it's still 27 miles to the sea. I paddled all this in the sea kayak, day paddling from a start point heading upstream and then back to my start point. Down to Yarm is 7.2 miles. The shallow section at Warsaw. A very pleasant mellow section. The railway bridge and road bridge at Yarm. From Yarm down to Preston Park is 3.5 miles. This is another pleasant section which has reliable water for flat water paddling and training sessions all year round. From Preston Park down to the barrage, 5.4 miles, is the final section of countryside before the built-up Stockton-on-Tees is reached, and then the industrial Teesport. This is also the last section of proper freshwater before the tidal Tees on the other side of the barrage. Again, time for a snack. Passing under the A66 Surtees road bridge, and then the railway bridges. Then onto Victoria Bridge in Stockton Centre. There's plenty of wildlife here. Onto the Millennium Bridge. Then the Princess of Wales Bridge. And finally the most recently constructed Infinity Bridge. The Tees Barrage White Watercourse on our left. And then the Tees Barrage itself. At high tide it's possible to paddle over this into the tidal section below. From this point it's just 10.4 miles to the open sea. Under the A19 road bridge and then the Newport Bridge. Then into industrial Teesport and the famous Transporter Bridge. On through Teesport, the big ships making us feel rather small. Out towards the open sea. By the time the line between North Gare Point and South Gare Lighthouse is crossed, I guess that marks the end of the River Tees and the start of the open sea. Just to be sure, a trip out to the Fairway Buoy 5 miles out seemed a good idea. Well, that's the end of my Tees Source to Sea project, and what fun it's been.